Hallo Leute, ich bin Siegel und ihr seht Deutsch für euch.
Hi there! This is just a part of a series that I'm doing on prefixes. To fully understand what's going on here, I recommend you watch the introduction on prefixes I did a while back, in which I explained when prefixes get separated from the base verb and when they don't, plus the little how-to I did on this whole series as to how to use these videos and what exactly I'm even trying to do with them. As a short reminder, you can find a list of the verbs that I will be combining with the individual prefixes in the description of all of these videos. Also, be aware that in the video I will not be combining every prefix with every one of those verbs, just in the interest of time. For more information on how to get the full list, though, stay tuned until the end of the video. And that's it for the intro. Have fun with today's prefixes. Okay, so our next prefix is auf. Auf can either be used in connection to something being open, because auf is kind of a synonym for offen, which means open. So for that, for example, we would have the verb aufmachen, which means to open up something. Or it can mean something being added onto something else, as in auftragen, which means add onto something. Also, when connected to sense verbs, so verbs connected to the senses, it usually means something like up. So for example, aufsehen can mean to look up from what you were doing before. Or aufhorchen, which will not be part of the list, means to you hear something, so you suddenly listen closer. Auf sein or offen sein means to be open. Die Tür ist auf. Etwas aufhaben can either mean that you have something on your head, so ich habe eine Mütze auf, or more colloquially, it's used to say that you have homework. Was haben wir auf? What do we have to do for tomorrow or for the next class? Was haben wir auf? Etwas aufhaben. Etwas aufsagen, usually combined with the word auswendig, which means by heart. So, etwas aufsagen means to recite something. Aufgeben, to give up. Or etwas aufgeben, to abandon something, to give something up. Or again, colloquially, etwas aufgeben is what the teacher does when they give homework. Der Lehrer hat uns etwas aufgegeben. Aufgehen. This either means to rise, der Teig geht auf, the dough is rising, or it can mean to be opening up. Not emotionally, this only refers to things. So for example, die Tür geht auf, the door is opening. Etwas aufmachen, to open something up. Ich habe das Buch aufgemacht. Again, this is kind of a like machen usually is, it kind of substitutes for verbs that might be more specific, more to the point. So it's not exactly colloquial, but it's kind of easy speak. Also a little warning here, it does never ever mean to make up with somebody or to make up for something. Never. Aufstehen, to get up. Both from a chair or in the morning when you're waking up. Aufstehen. Auflegen. Usually you will encounter auflegen as meaning to hang up the phone. Auflegen. Also not das Telefon auflegen, but just auflegen or sometimes den Hörer auflegen. So just this part of the phone. Aufsehen. Kind of going into the literary portion of the language when you're using it to mean to supervise somebody, because der Aufseher means something like the guard, the supervisor. But then we have the construction zu jemandem aufsehen, which means to look up to somebody. Not to something, but literally in the metaphorical sense.
Can we just take a moment of silence here and appreciate that I literally just said literally in the metaphorical sense? Nah, man.
I'm done. Ich sehe zu dir auf means I admire you. Jemanden oder etwas aufhalten. To stop something or somebody. Now, you might remember anhalten, in which case I said anhalten definitely only means to stop a movement. Aufhalten means to stop somebody from doing something. Of course, that could also mean that you're stopping them in the movement, but the focus here is that you're stopping them in an action, in trying to do something. Aufnehmen. This is a pretty big verb. Etwas aufnehmen can mean to take up nutrition. Can also mean to absorb something into yourself. Can also mean to retain something. So knowledge, aufnehmen, means to retain knowledge, to like take it and keep it. Can also mean to record, for example, data. It's kind of more an official term than, for example, I could say, ich muss Ihre Daten aufnehmen, which then would mean I have to take your data. Now, jemanden aufnehmen can mean either to provide shelter for somebody. So, for example, a family could provide shelter to a kitten. Then you would say, Sie haben die Katze aufgenommen. Or it could mean to accept somebody into, for example, a social group. Wir haben ihn in unsere Clique aufgenommen. Auffallen, to stand out in some way, so to kind of be indiscreet. Jemandem auffallen means to stand out to somebody. It doesn't always have to refer to people, so things can auffallen as well. Aus. This means out, and therefore it's often used in that sense. However, it also means off in the sense of the light is on, the light is off. But usually, like out, it means a movement out of something. Again, this can also be figuratively. When it's combined with thinking verbs, it's usually referring to some sort of emerging of an idea. So for example, sich etwas ausdenken means to think of something. Again, that also means that figuratively we again have a focus on something coming out here. Aus sein, to be turned off. Again, not sexually, but the light is turned off. Das Licht ist aus. In a very specific context, that being in restaurants or shops, it can also mean that a store is out of a certain thing. Das ist aus. We don't have that available right now. Aushaben. This is very colloquial. This means school is over for you. So, wann hast du heute aus? When are your classes over today? Etwas gegen oder über jemanden aussagen. To make a statement against somebody or something, to testify against somebody or something. Oder etwas über jemanden oder etwas aussagen, to make a statement about something, to be significant in relation to somebody. Das sagt viel über dich aus. That says a lot about you. Geld ausgeben, to spend money. Jemandem etwas ausgeben, to treat somebody to something, to a drink, to a meal, whatever. Also, we have the reflexive verb sich als jemand or etwas ausgeben, which means to pretend to be somebody or something. So, for example, I could say, hat sich als mein Freund ausgegeben. He pretended to be my friend. Although this usually implies some sort of disguise. Etwas ausmachen. Colloquially, this means about the same as etwas abmachen, so to make plans with somebody, to set a date with somebody, which is usually among friends. Again, this is a very colloquial word. Then, etwas ausmachen can mean to put something out, for example, a fire. It can mean to turn something off, for example, a lamp. Die Lampe ausmachen, das Feuer ausmachen. And it can also mean to be the defining factor of something. Das macht deinen Charakter aus. That's really the defining trait of your character. And relating to that, it also means to kind of affect somebody. So, for example, das macht mir etwas aus means, well, that matters to me. Or, das macht mir gar nichts aus is, well, I really don't care about that at all. Like, that doesn't affect me whatsoever. Etwas auslegen, to interpret something. So you see an event happening and you have an interpretation of what that means. That's auslegen. Aussehen wie jemand oder etwas. To look like somebody or something. Etwas aushalten. To endure something, to bear something, to push through something. Etwas aushalten. Aushören does not exist. And neither does a verb combined with aus, that means to hear somebody out. However, we have the word aushorchen, which means to pick somebody's brain for details or to try to pull information from somebody, specifically when you're trying to get something out of them. For example, you might know that your friend knows something about your partner that you don't, and you want to get that information out of them, so you aushorchen them. Ausfallen. This verb is never transitive, so it never uses an object. This means to go out, to to be cancelled. So for example, a class could ausfallen, but also der Strom ist ausgefallen, the power went out. And that's it for today. I'll see you on Thursday for the next part of the series. Now, if you want to get a copy of the full list of verbs that I tend to combine with these prefixes, as well as all grammar scripts of previous grammar episodes, support me on Patreon, which is always linked in the description, as well as on the screen right now, and pledge any amount you want to pay for each episode I put out, and then I will add you to a Dropbox folder with all of the documents once I get your first pledge. Bis Donnerstag. Tschüss!